Hey guys, welcome back to Henderson Library's Teen Time Edition Campfire Stories. I am your host, Paulina.
And I am Nicole.
Alright guys, we have a really good segment planned for you. Go ahead and get your popcorn, your treats.
You might want to leave on your lights as well, because it's going to get pretty scary.
Alright guys, if you're ready, let's get started.
Okay, so we are going to begin with 2-sentence horror stories. I woke up to hear knocking on glass. At first I thought it was the window, until I heard it come from the mirror again.
I was working the night shift alone. There is a face in the cellar staring right at the security camera.
You hear your mom calling to you in the kitchen. As you are heading down the stairs, you hear a whisper from the closet saying, "Don't go down there." I heard it too.
The longer I wore it, the more it grew on me. She had such pretty skin.
The last thing I saw was my alarm clock flashing 12:07 before she pushed her long, rotting nails through my chest, her other hand muffling my screams. I sat bolt upright, relieved it was only a dream. But as I saw my alarm clock read 12:06, I heard my closet door creak open.
I began tucking my son into bed, and he tells me, "Daddy, can you check for monsters underneath the bed?" I look underneath for his amusement, but I see him, another him, under the bed, staring back at me, quivering and whispering, "Daddy, there's somebody on my bed."
You start to drift off into a comfortable sleep when you hear your name being whispered. You live alone.
You get home, tired after a long day's work and ready for a relaxing night at home. You reach for the light switch, but another hand is already there.
Growing up with cats and dogs, I got used to the sounds of scratching at my door while I slept. But now that I live alone, it is much more unsettling.
Alright guys, up next is a creepy poem that Miss Nicole found.
6 little children playing in the park. Well, one of them leaves. He can't be out after dark. 5 little children climb the jungle gym. Another goes home, but she was far too thin. 4 little children coasting down the slide. 2 more gone, they hop in their mother's ride. 2 little children sitting by the tree. They get up and start to run, 'cause they've spotted me. 1 little child trips and falls. I lick my lips. I won't go hungry after all.
Alright friends, without further ado, we have some campfire stories to tell for you. Some of these are from Reddit and some of these are from Creepypasta. Alright, let's go ahead and start with our first campfire story. This one's called I Hate It When My Brother Charlie Has to Go Away by Horror in Pure Form. I hate it when my brother Charlie has to go away. My parents constantly try to explain to me how sick he is. That I am so lucky for having a brain where all the chemicals flow properly to their destinations like undammed rivers. When I complain about how bored I am without a little brother to play with, they try to make me feel bad by pointing out that his boredom likely far surpasses mine, considering his confined to a dark room in an institution. I always beg for them to give him at least one more chance. Of course, did it first. Charlie has been back home several times, each shorter in duration than the last. Every time without fail, it all starts again. The neighborhood cats with gouged out eyes showing up in his toy chest. My dad's razors found dropped by the baby slide in the park across the street. Mom's vitamins replaced by bits of dishwasher tablets. My parents are hesitant now, using last chances sparingly. They say his disorder makes him charming, makes it easy for him to fake normalcy, and to trick the doctors who care for him into thinking he's ready to come home. That I will just have to put up with my boredom if it means staying safe from him. I hate it when Charlie has to go away. It makes me have to pretend to be good until he comes back.
Okay, and our next story is called The Eyes Are Watching Me by Recludeus. I bought a new house in the small town of Winthrop. The house was cheap, but the most important part was that I needed to get away from the city. A few months ago, I had a run-in with a stalker. While I had managed to get him arrested, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes just constantly watching me. I felt like there were eyes everywhere, at home, on the street, so I decided to move out into the country, to somewhere with less people, just for peace of mind. The house itself was big and somewhat old, but otherwise very welcoming. The agent who introduced me to the house had been required to mention that a serial killer had lived here in the past. That was why the house was so cheap. However, he, and later my next-door neighbor, both told me to pay the thought no mind. 4 other owners had lived in the house since then, and all of them were very happy with it. I love the house. Its interior furnishings were beautiful and very comfortable. The people of Winthrop were also very friendly, often bringing over freshly baked pastries or inviting me over for dinner. Get-togethers, they said, were the key to making sure everyone who lived in Winthrop loved it there. Yet after a week, I stopped loving it. The feeling of someone watching returned, worse than before. I tried to ignore it, but soon I started losing sleep. Giant bags grew under my eyes, and I began yawning almost as much as I breathed. My neighbor was kind enough to let me stay in her house for a few nights. It was during this time that I learned the legend of Forrest Carter, the serial killer who had lived in my house. While no one knows his exact kill count, Carter, also known as the Winthrop Peacock, was a man with an extremely severe case of narcissism. Legends say that he couldn't fall asleep if he didn't feel like he was being watched. He was finally arrested for putting up a scarecrow to watch him during the night. Only it wasn't a scarecrow. Carter had murdered a 17-year-old girl just so her corpse could stare at him. The story gave me shivers, and after I went home, I felt like there were hundreds of pairs of eyes just watching me, no matter how much I turned. Today, however, was the first day that I acted out. I was cooking breakfast when I felt the eyes. Instinctively, out of fear, I threw my kitchen knife, which lodged itself into the wall. As I pulled it out, I found myself staring at a pair of eyes, pickling in formaldehyde. I've been watching the police peel away the drywall of my house for hours now. So far, they've found 142 pairs of eyes in little glass jars. And the scariest thing is, each and every one was staring at me.
Alright guys, and for our last story, there's no title and no author. It could be true, could be made up, I'll leave it up to you. Last night, as I was sitting in my living room and watching a little TV before bed, I heard a strange noise. It was a slow, drawn-out scraping across the hardwood floor. Confused, I searched for the source of the sound, and I found it immediately. Someone had slipped a small folded note under the door. What the? More curious than anything, I approached the note slowly. I knelt down cautiously and picked up the strange paper. On it were 5 words scrawled on in a crude, messy fashion. "Get out! He's coming!" I didn't pause to consider the meaning of the note. However, as I immediately realized there was something very, very wrong with the situation, the note had come from under the closet door.
Are you scared now?
I hope so. I am. Alright guys, thank you for tuning in to our campfire stories. I hope you had a great time. Happy Halloween, stay safe out there, and I will see you soon.